Hello travelers, Boardman21 here. Today got a 1 to 76 Beastmaster build for you, which is going to be based around wolves as your companion and then later turned into squirrels using the unique Herald of the Scurry, which is a helmet. Hunting the timeline, the Black Sun will have the best odds for you to find that unique. It does take a couple of days, it's a little bit more rare to get. Usually I find it within 2 to 3 days of hunting for it casually. With that in mind, you can't have the squirrels without it, so that unique for the squirrels is mandatory. The other unique for this leveling guide that I'd recommend you definitely get that's kind of mandatory is either the claw or the fang. And the claw is something you get at level 4. It's a very common item that you can find, and it's going to allow you to summon wolves up to your maximum companion, which is really going to help with the leveling portion of this all the way to level 76 when you can finally put on that helm. The other unique that we do run, which we put on at level 65, is the Apogee of Frozen Light, which is a one-handed sword. It's unique and it gives you the plus levels to the cold minions, which is going to allow us with the wolves, which will have the cold tag, to get plus 6 levels at level 65 with them, giving us a bunch of the more damage modifiers inside their skill tree. Those ones are not mandatory to have, but you will do a lot more damage with them, so we do run them. So again, you will need the Herald of the Scurry helmet in order to get the squirrels. You can level this up all the way to 76 and even continue with it without that and just run the wolves, but of course they're not quite as effective as the squirrels because you just have so many more of them and there's no less damage for them. So it does a ton more damage to have all 10 of them. On top of that, the one unique that again is required is I would have the claw or the fang, or you're going to have to skill your tree a little bit differently than I did. With that in mind, this build came together extremely well, and into the end game you're just doing tons of damage. As you can see in the gameplay, your squirrels just annihilate everything, single target, tons of enemies, groups of them, they just go all over the place and absolutely annihilate them. You can be a little bit squishy in this, especially since we are dual wielding, so make sure to focus on your defenses. Just capping out those resist and getting your critical strike avoidance is going to allow you to have good survivability. But if you don't focus on your resist, you may start to find yourself a little bit squishy, especially in those monos getting up to that level 90 and into empowered. So focus on that when you can. Now keep in mind, this will have the same layout as all the other leveling guides. In the description below, you'll see the timestamps at all the levels where I put in my points to the skills and passives and show you exactly how I do it and talk about the build a bit and then have some gameplay of it. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and get started. Alright travelers, we are now level 4. At this point you just want to work on getting your elemental resist up. That's going to be the main thing that's going to make you feel a little bit more tanky. Of course all of them really help, but on that first gear, get some elemental, get some maximum health, and you'll feel a lot more tanky. For skills, we've just unlocked our first skill, which we're going to go ahead and go with Summon Wolf. And with the first point, we're going to put it into Savage Hunters to make them do more damage. The first thing we're going to be working towards is this Pack Hunter, so that we can have a +1 maximum companion. This will allow us to have 1 additional wolf to the 2 that we can currently already have. Of course, you can only summon 1 right now unless you take a point in safety in the numbers, or in your inventory you have the claw or the fang. The claw is something you can wear at level 4, and it allows you to summon all your wolves up to your maximum number of companions, which is really nice and allows us to have multiple of them right off the bat. For passives, we've got 2 points. We're going to go ahead and throw both of them into Gift of the Wilderness for that health. It'll also increase the minion health so they have a little bit better survivability. And then for the inventory, some uniques that you can wear. Arbitral Circuit will give your minions some extra protection, as well as give you increased move speed to feel really good running through the campaign early. And then that chance to summon an illusionary tree, which has a ton of aggro, can save your life more than once. And then, of course, like I said, the claw is really nice to have early on. Later in the game, again, this is a squirrel build. If you don't have these uniques and you really want to do the squirrel build, I recommend you find them before playing this. It's unlikely you're going to find it by level 76, but that would be the Herald of the Scurry to convert your wolves over into squirrels. We'll be using that along with the Apologies of Frozen Light. Having them have the cold tag is going to allow us to give them extra levels. So between these 3 items, we'll have 28 levels in the cold wolves, which will be really nice. But that'll be it for this update. I'll see you guys at level 8 when we spec into our second skill. Alright, travelers, we are now level 8. Again, getting your resistances up, that's the main thing you want to go for, along with getting some extra health and having some sort of leech or something to get your health back for when you do take hits, but we'll get that from swipe, which we'll go over in the skill section. In the skill section, we got 2 more points for Summon Wolf. We're going to go ahead and throw 1 more into Savage Hunters for that increased damage, or actually it's a more damage multiplier, and then 1 point into Tundra Stalkers. This does indeed give them some flat cold damage. It gives them the cold tag, which is going to allow them to now get the added levels from the Apology of the Frozen Light Sword when we put that on at level 65, but that's much later. And then at this point, we're going to want the 1 point in Frozen Fang so they can start to have some AoE, and then we're going to build straight into that Maximum Wolf plus Maximum Companion. Then for the second skill, we're going to go ahead and start building into Swipe. For Swipe, we're going to put 1 point into Way of the Hunt. This will allow us to get some leech back so that we can replenish our health when we take damage, but for the most part, we're trying to just let our wolves do the fighting. Then for passives, we got 6 more points. We're going to cap out that Gift of the Wilderness for all that increased health for us and the minions. And then with the last 2 points, you can put it into minion damage if you want, but I'm going to go with Hunter's Restoration first. This gives us a ton of increased health. And then every 3 seconds when we hit a target with a skill, or in this case it'll be swiped for us, we get health restored on top of the leech that we'll get from the hit. And then for the inventory, nothing's changed here. Again, these uniques are not required. However, if you do not have the claw or the fang, don't forget that you won't be able to summon your wolves up to your maximum companion limit. So right now you'd be limited to 1, not 2 like I have. So feel free on your toolbar, you can go ahead and throw something else like a saber tooth or whatever else companion you have. You can throw it out there so you can at least have 2 active for now until you can find that unique or build into it in the skill tree later. And that'll be it for this update. I'll see you guys at level 12 for the next one. Alright, travelers, we are now level 12, still working on getting our resistance up. Again, don't forget that for every level area you go up, the mobs will do 1% more damage to you. To offset that, you want to get your resist up. So currently, we're in about a level 12 to 15 area, so 15% res at this point is really, really good. It'll counteract that. Of course, if you have more, you're going to start to feel really, really tanky. For skills, we got 2 more points for Summon Wolf. I went ahead and put 1 point into Frozen Fangs to give him that little bit of AoE with Ice Bite. They don't have a ton of attack speed and we don't have a ton of them, but as we build into more of them and once we get 10 squirrels, they'll be able to reduce that remaining cooldown on hit by 20%, so they'll be getting it completely cooled down almost every time that each of them do an attack, because there'll be 10 of them, and so they'll be having Ice Bites go off all the time. The next point we have is going to go into Tundra Stalkers. Again, we're going to go ahead and get 3 points into that and work down getting that +1 wolf with the maximum companion. For Swipe, we've got 3 more points. We're going to go ahead and put 3 more of them into Way of the Hunt. This is just going to allow us to get a little bit more hit damage with it, but also leech that so that we can get our life back at this point in the game. Then for passives, we got 5 more points. We're going to cap out that Hunter's Restoration so that we have 10% increased health. This also unlocks Warcry, which is another skill that we'll be using. We'll spec into it later. And then 2 more points. We're going to throw them both into Primal Medicine for that increased minion damage. And then for the inventory, nothing's really changed here. Again, just getting stats like minion damage or minion health is going to help keep them alive, have them do more damage. And if you're looking for a bunch of uniques that you can wear, there's a whole list of them. You could do the Pebbles set that there is. Later we'll have the Ribbons of Blood, which gives more melee flat physical damage for the minions, which will be huge for them. So those are some things you can look out for if you want to wear them on this as you level up. But that'll be it for this. I'll see you guys at level 20 when we spec into our 3rd skill. Alright, travelers, we are now at level 20. At this point, Void Resist will definitely make you feel a bit more tanky, so if you're struggling to survive throughout this chapter 2 and 3, make sure to grab some more Void Resist, some Physical Resist, but again, working towards all of them and getting them to 75% is the main thing, as well as stacking some additional health. For skills, we got 3 more points for Summon Wolf. We're going to throw 1 more in that Tundra Stalkers for that cold damage. This unlocks Winterborn, put 1 point there, which then unlocks Pack Hunters, which then will give us a +1 maximum companion and wolf, so you will be able to have up to 4 of them active at this point. Again, if you don't have the unique that lets you summon them all at once, you're probably going to want to start working towards safety in the numbers so that you can have all of those wolves up to the companion limit, but we are not going to do that in this build since we have the unique that allows us. So after this, we'll be building into just more damage for them. For swipe, we got 3 more points. We're going to cap out the Way of the Hunt for that hit damage to the leech, 2 points in aspect of the panther so that we can get some global damage increase for us. And then for the third skill that we're going to spec into, lots of options here. If you want, you can go ahead and spec into Warcry and start getting some buffs and invulnerability out of that. If you want another damaging skill, instead of swipe, you could run Upheaval or Maelstrom. For us, though, we're going to build into Fury Leap next. The reason for this is it's going to allow the minions to leap with us as well as give them a ton of base damage. So we're going to go ahead and throw 3 points into Warrior's Entrance, which will give our wolves +9 melee damage. That's a flat 9 damage, which is a big number for them, and then 1 point in Pack Leader, so they'll leap with us into battle. Of course, they get uptime as 3-second duration on that. It has a 6-second cooldown, so they're only going to have about 50% uptime of that buff, but it's still really nice, especially for single target. Then for passives, we got 11 more passive points. 7 of them have to go into the base Primalist class before we can go into the Beastmaster. So we're going to go ahead and put 1 of them into Primal Strength. We're going to throw 4 more of them into the Primal Medicine for that minion damage. And then we're going to throw 2 of them into Survival of the Pack for that increased minion melee damage, as well as minion melee damage leached as health to increase their survivability a little bit. The last 4 points all going into the Beastmaster will go into 𝐕 Strength for that reduced damage taken from nearby enemies, just to increase our survivability. And then again, for us, nothing really special on your gear. Get the resistances you need. On a 2-handed staff, you can get minion physical damage, which will really boost their damage. And for the uniques, again, not needed are the Arboreal Circuits, which give you a ton of move speed. But again, the Claw, a very common item to have, is going to give them that base melee physical damage, but also let you summon up to that companion limit. So I would definitely recommend getting 1 of those before leveling this guide as is. And that'll be it for this update. I'll see you guys at level 27 for the next one. Alright, travelers, we are now level 27. Time to put in some more points. Again, just work on those resistances, getting them as high as you can. Going into Chapter 4, Necrotic and Physical are the 2 main ones that you're going to run into, so getting the Necrotic and Physical up at this point is going to really help you, as well as getting your maximum health increased as well. For skills, we got 2 more points for Summon Wolf. We're going to throw them both into Legendary Bite for that melee damage multiplier, as well as more melee crit chance. For swipe, we got 3 more points. We're going to put 1 more point into Aspect of the Panther, and then 2 points into Wild Calling, so that when we do a hit with swipe and hit an enemy, there's a chance for a Spirit Wolf to come out from all of our wolves, which can each hit a target, which is awesome. It's a little extra damage, although we're not swiping too much, but for single target, it just adds in a little bit more damage. For Fury Leap, we got 5 more points. We're going to cap out the Warrior's Entrance to give them that global melee damage, 1 point in Frenzied Onslaught so they get Frenzy for 3 seconds as well as that base melee damage, and then 2 points in Panther Strike to reduce that cooldown, so instead of 6 seconds, we're now down to 5.4. We'll try and get that under 5 seconds to make it feel a little bit better. For passives, we got 9 more points, all of them going into the Beastmaster. Cap out that 𝐕𝐲𝐻𝐻 Strength for the increased strength as well as the less damage taken by nearby enemies, and then throw your last 5 points into Boar Heart so that when we get hit, there's a chance to get aspect of the boar. Actually, we will be granted it once we get hit, and you'll be able to have it for 5 seconds. This does have a 2-second cooldown, so if you get hit after 2 seconds apart, but less than 5, you can have 100% uptime of this. However, if you go more than 5 seconds, obviously it'll fall off. The first hit you take will give you more damage, but it's a nice damage reduction for survivability through the campaign and into the end game. And then for the inventory, nothing's changed here. Again, minion physical damage on a 2-handed staff is going to give you a whole bunch of increased damage for him, and later again we'll of course build into those uniques, but for now just the same thing. Get your resistance, get your health up, and add minion damage wherever you can as a stat to just help boost their damage and take enemies out quicker. And that'll be it for this update. See you guys at level 35 when we spec into our 4th skill. Alright, Travelers, we are now level 35, and we're still working on getting our resistances up in this chapter. Necrotic and Physical are the main things. The boss we're about to take on is Poison, so again, just get them all up at this point. You're going to want to get to about 40% resist at this point, but you can be plenty tanky without it, as long as you don't stand things. Plus, the wolves tend to take a lot of the hits for you, and of course, we're still stacking health at almost 600. For skills, we got 2 more points for Summon Wolf. We're going to go ahead and put both of them into On the Hunt. At this point, we need to cap out the attack speed, we need to cap out the increased damage, so between these 3, you can kind of put points wherever you want, depending on how you want to build it, but attack speed always feels really, really good. For Swipe, we got 2 more points. We're going to throw 2 of them into Regarian Reach. We're going to work towards getting the Primal Resonance, and the reason for that is every time that we swipe, even though it'll have a cooldown, it will proc that companion ability. It won't put it on cooldown, and even if it is on cooldown, it'll still use it, which not only heals the nearest companion that's next to you, but it will use the House skill, which is really nice because that's going to give us 100% uptime of procs off of that Howl being, such as the Frenzy they get, the increased damage, and then inside of Frenzy Totem, the increased crit chance. So that'll be what we're speccing that for. So we're going to remove some points here so that we can build into that faster. So remove the 2 points from Wild Calling and remove the 3 points from Aspect of the Panther. And then again, those points will start working towards the Primal Resonance, and then for the Spirit Wolves, you can put 1 point in Lupine Attunement later. For Fury Leap, we got 3 more points. We're going to go ahead and put 2 more in Panther Strike for that reduced cooldown recovery, 1 point in Ambush Predator as we work towards the Rise. We're going to want these vines. We're going to build into them to get the highest chance of getting them every time that we lunge. When those vines die, later at level 65 plus, when we're wearing the Apogee swords, every time a minion dies, it gives us a stack, a buff stack, and when we use that stack, I think it's called the Frozen something stack, when we use that, it'll buff our companions to do more damage and also give them frenzy, which is nice. Then we've got our next skill, which is going to be the Summon Frenzy Totem after we put points in. We have 11 points here. We're going to go ahead and put 1 into Savagery, 1 point into Ambush so that we can now have Aspect of the Shark. We're going to put 8 points into the Chase for that increased attack speed for our companions, and then 1 point in Axe and Claw. And we're actually 1 passive point short of Frenzy Totem, so we're going to go ahead and just do Warcry first. For Warcry, we're going to build it so we're invincible with it. Then we're going to build towards getting that cooldown, and then we can build crit chance. And once you get the Apology Swords on, the increased cold damage will be really nice. And the Apology Swords give you the plus levels, but we do have Cold Wolves right now, so they will benefit from any of the cold stuff as well. So 1 point in Staggering War, 1 point in Kinetic Scream, and then 2 points in Eviscerated Howl, and the next one will be to reduce that cooldown by 50%. This will allow us to be invincible for 1 out of every about 4 seconds, and then also to have 100% uptime of all that crit chance and increased cold damage for our cold companions, and for us, but mostly for the cold companions. And then for the inventory, nothing's changed here. Again, just go for those resist and go for increased minion damage as well as you can. If your minions are having a hard time staying alive, feel free to throw in some minion health as well. The longer you stay in between battles, they'll help heal them. You can also throw an unspec'd Terra's Blessing onto your skill bar and heal them with that. But that'll be it for this update. I'll see you guys at level 42 for the next one. Alright, travelers, we are now level 43. In Chapter 7, where we are now, cold and physical resist are the main things you want. Mine are a little low, but we're having pretty decent survivability right now. I think we've only died once on this map. But if you are struggling, get some cold resist, get some physical resist, and just more maximum health. That'll help you out. For skills, we got 2 more points for Summon Wolf. We're going to go ahead and throw 1 into Victory Howl and then 1 into Snare, so that we get that increased melee damage on Howl. Remember, every time that we swipe and hit an enemy, they are howling, so you're going to have 100% uptime of this. You don't have to worry about getting that on kill chance or the Howl on kill chance here. That part does not matter. It's going to be every time that we use swipe. For swipe, we got 3 more points. I already placed 3 of them in here, so we put 1 more in Wingarian Reach. We have the 1 in Claws of the Bear, 1 in Primal Resonance. Now we're going to cap out the Wingarian Reach with 2 more points in there and 1 point in Culling, so that we can start building into that kill threshold with it, which is really nice against bosses. 2 more points for Fury Leap, 1 point going into Ambush Predator, and then 1 point in Rise, so that we start to have that chance to cast the minions. Remember, we want the minions because the minions will die, and at level 65, when we put on the Apogee of the Frozen Light Sword, that death of a minion will start giving us the buff that the sword grants us for stacks, so that we can give our cold companions more damage and frenzy, which will be our wolves. And then for Warcry, we got 7 more points. We're going to put the 1 point in Shallow Breath so that we reduce that cooldown. It now goes off every 5 seconds. Out of that 5 seconds, we will be invulnerable for 1 second, so that means 20% of the time we're basically invincible. We're going to eventually bring that cooldown down a little bit, though. Then we're going to put 1 point in Deep Roar, 1 point in Jumon's Wrath to convert this over to Cold. We're going to put 3 points into Frost Claw, which increases the cold damage for us and our allies. Because our wolves are cold, we're going to be increasing the damage that they do, all their melee flat cold damage. The melee physical damage won't be increased, but the melee cold damage, they do have some flat cold, will be increased, so it is a nice boost for them. And then 1 point in Bringer of Winter gives them that 100% increased crit chance. And then Frenzy Totem will eventually give them 250% increased crit chance. We'll get another 100% crit chance with Battlecry. And in the passives, we have Aspect of the Lynx to where they'll get more crit chance, more crit multi, and then eventually they'll leech a bunch of that. And that's how their survivability will get really strong into the end game. And then for passives, we got 8 more points. We're going to put 4 of them into Axe and Claw for more melee physical damage for them. Then we're going to go ahead and put the last 4 points in Vipers. This will give them increased melee attack speed, and then Aspect of the Viper will also give them poison chance and poison damage over time. We're not too worried about that poison on hit or the damage over time, but the increased attack speed that companions get here is really nice and will really boost it. Next, we're going to go for, of course, Nature's Embrace for that +1 maximum companion. And then for the inventory, nothing's changed here. Again, just get those resources in Chapter 7 where we're at now. You're definitely going to want the cold and the physical. And that'll be it for this update. I'll see you guys at level 50 when we spec into Frenzy Totem. Alright, Travelers, we are now level 50, time to spec into our 5th skill, but first, the character sheet. As you can see here, I really need some necrotic and some poison resist. Right now, the necrotic and poison dots are absolutely destroying me and my pets, so that is one of the main things I am looking to get on some gear. I just haven't spent the time to put it on yet. If you're struggling, again, get your resistances up and it should feel much, much better. For skills, we got 1 more point for the wolf. We're going to go ahead and cap out that snare for the 100% increased melee damage when howl. Remember that these buffs normally only last for 4 seconds or so, but we have it going off every time that we swipe every 2 seconds. So you get 100% uptime of these buffs, granted that you're hitting an enemy with swipe, which is what we're doing. Then for swipe, we got 2 more points. We're going to put 1 more point in culling so that we kill things at 14% or less health, and then 1 point into the Lupine attunement so that when we hit an enemy, it calls forth a spirit wolf from each of our summoned wolves, which right now is 6. So it's a ton of spirit wolves coming from them every time that we end up using swipe. For Fury Leap, we got 1 more point. We're going to put it into Rise for that chance to cast Vines. We want to get that to 100%. For Warcry, we put a point into Breath of Iterra and 1 point into Invigorate to help with our healing. So every time it comes off cooldown, we can heal ourselves and heal our wolves a little bit to increase their survivability until they get their leech. We're going to go ahead and throw another point into that Breath of Iterra. Eventually, we'll take out the Invigorate. We're really going to want to build into the crit chance up here. And then, of course, the cold damage after that. And then for the last skill, we're going to spec into Summon Frenzy Totem. We're going to go ahead and put 2 points into Rapidity for that increased effect. Remember, this gives us 20% increased attack speed, so this is a percentage of that. So this puts us at about 24% increased attack speed from it. Then we're going to go ahead and put 2 points into Beaststyle Frenzy. This gives us our companions melee physical damage. When we summon the Frenzy Totem, our companions are granted that for 4 seconds. The cooldown of this is 6 seconds, so you can't get 100% uptime until later in the game when we build into CDR, which we will on the boots and on our belt, which should allow us to get really close to 100% uptime of this. And then the last one is while Frenzy Totem is active, your wolves' howls grant increased critical strike chance. So we're going to put 3 points in there for lead the pack. We're going to cap that out. We can get 100% uptime of this. You can have 100% uptime of Frenzy Totem. You won't have 100% uptime of this buff from it. But because this is when you have the wolves howl, and they do that every time we swipe, we will have 100% uptime of the 250% increased crit. So this is where a lot of their crit chance will come from. And then for passives, we got 5 more points. We're going to go ahead and put 3 of them into Cry of the Lynx, or 4 of them into Cry of the Lynx. And now when we use an ability, it's going to, or when we use the companion ability, which when we use swipe and that procs the wolves to howl but doesn't put it on cooldown, that does count. So as long as we're swiping every 2 seconds, you'll have that uptime of the Lynx all the time. And then the last point into Sorority Clause to give it increased critical strike multiplier for both us and for the companions. And then for the inventory, another unique that you can wear is the Doublet of Onus Tool, which gives your minions bleed chance on hit, and it also gives bleed a much increased duration for the bleed that the minions do apply. So we're using that just for a little extra damage right now. We probably won't keep that on in the end game. And that'll be it for this update. I'll see you guys at level 60 for the next one. Alright, travelers, we are now level 60 for the character sheet. We did cap out our Necrotic to take on the Abomination. He was owning us before that, but getting some physical Necrotic, like I said, will make that fight feel really, really easy. Going into this next timeline, into the Black Sun, Void Resist is going to be the main thing that you're looking for through here. I still need to get mine up quite a bit, and we're sitting at about 900 health. Once you have your resistances pretty under control, you can start working towards getting that critical strike avoidance to 100%, as well as your endurance to 60%. For skills, we got 2 more points for Summon Wolf. We're going to go ahead and throw both of them into On the Hunt. This gives them more move speed, attack speed, but more than that, it unlocks the Howl of the Might. The next 4 points are going to go here. Remember, we're going to get +6 levels when we throw on the 2 Apologies of Frozen Light. So we'll be able to cap this out no problem. And they'll get 40% more damage. But remember, this is also tripled if you've howled recently, which counts for the last 4 seconds. Which means you only have to use swipe once every 4 seconds on a target for them to howl. So they get 100% uptime of that. So this will more than double their damage just by putting the 4 points in there, which is huge. After that, we'll probably work into giving them some more bleed chance as well as bleed duration, because you can get bleed duration so high on this build. It really helps for taking down those single targets. Then for swipe, we got 2 more points. We're going to go ahead and throw both of them into Aspect of the Panther as we work into the Wild Calling. For Fury Leap, we got 2 more points. We're going to go ahead and throw both of them into the Rise so that we have a 100% chance for those vines. Remember, we want the vines so that when they die, we get the Frozen Vengeance stacks so we can get more damage after using a melee skill off the unique weapons for our companions. Then for Warcry, we got 2 more points. We're going to go ahead and throw one of them into Deep War and then one of them into Battle Cry. This will be the next thing we cap out to give them another 100% increased critical strike chance. For Summon Frenzy Totem, we capped out the Beast Style Frenzy, we capped out the Lead the Pack, and now we're going to work our way down towards making it just boost the companions more. So 3 points in Revitalizing Totem, 1 point to cap out that Rapidity for the increased Frenzy effect, and then 1 point in Symbol of Haste. And then we'll work towards giving our companions all that physical and elemental resist, as well as another 30% buff effect from Frenzy Totem itself. Passives, we got 10 points. We're going to cap out the Serrated Claws with another 5 points, and then throw 5 points in Critical Bite. Your wolves should have much better survivability now. The only stat you need for them is increased minion health, as well as increased minion damage. You don't need the health regen, you don't need dodge. You don't need any of that. They should do enough crits as well, once we get to 100% crit even more, that they're leeching a huge portion of that damage as life, which should keep them at full health most of the time. There are going to be times when they step or stay in dots for long periods of time. That will probably be the only thing that kills them. And then for the inventory, nothing's changed here. Again, we have a lot of bleed chance and bleed duration on the chest, which is really nice. It's not mandatory, but that's why we might build into more bleed later, just for that single target damage. For everything else, again, just minion damage, minion physical damage, and then the stats you need to survive. And that'll be it for this update. I'll see you guys at level 76 for the last one. Alright, travelers, we are now level 76. Time for the final update with all the skill points and the skills. For your character sheet, again, getting all of your resist to 75 is what you want to work towards. Getting to 100% critical strike avoidance, which we're almost there. We're going to get our 100% critical strike avoidance through idols for now, until you can farm blessings later. But you can get it all off idols. And then for endurance, you want to get to that 60%. You'll feel really tanky once you cap out both of those, as well as your resist, and have quite a bit of health. For skills, we got quite a few more points for Summon Wolf. I went ahead and put 4 points in Howl of the Might when I put on my swords, so that we'd have that 40% more damage with them. This bonus is tripled when you howl, so every time that you swipe and have that minion do the Scurry and Rage, or howl if you want to call it, they get 120% bonus damage, which is huge for them. The last 7 points we're going to cap out on the Hunt with 1 more point there. We're going to put 3 more in Savage Hunters for that damage multiplier, 3 more in Legendary Bite for that more melee crit chance as well as melee damage. and that'll take care of all those points for us. If you want to, you can save 1 point and put it into safety in numbers so you don't have to wear the fang or the claw, or if you don't have it, put the point there. But again, that's not required, and you get a lot of flat melee damage on that unique, so we're going to not swap it out at this point. For swipe, we got 3 more points. Going to go ahead and build into aspect of the panther and 2 points in wild calling. The spirit wolves are now spirit squirrels, so when we hit a target and the squirrels are around us, it will fire off 10 of these wolves at a single target, which do the same damage the squirrels do on hit. So it's basically 10 free hits, which is really nice. If we get into 100% crit, it really helps you take down the single targets faster. For Fury Leap, we don't really worry about the chance to summon vines anymore. It doesn't work the way that we intended. They actually have to die in battle to get the Frozen Vengeance buff. They can't just be casted until they disappear or timed out, so they don't really do us too much good. We're going to end up taking those points out. The points we're putting in, we're going to go ahead and throw 2 into Wings of Endurance for that health restored on landing. We're going to want to get the cleanse once we take points out of the vine, but for now, 1 point in 𝐓𝐢𝐬𝐻𝑒's protection so that we're immune while leaping. This will be really nice when you leap through projectiles and other things through the air. And then again, like I said, we're going to remove those 4 points from Rise to build into the cleansing and elsewhere. Then for Warcry, we got 3 more points, all 3 going into Battlecry for that increased crit chance for us and our allies. Remember, Warcry hits our allies with that 100%. They're also cold, so they get all the cold benefits, which is another 100% here. So this really will boost their critical strike chance. And then for Summon Frenzy Totem, the Node lead of the pack still works. The Scurry Rage works as the Wolf Howl, so they still get that huge bonus. The last 3 points we're going to build into the Symbol of Selflessness for that buff effect, so they'll attack even faster, and then 2 points in Warding Totem so that they get physical and elemental resist, so they'll be quite a bit tankier. For passives, I actually have a ton more points than 3, so where I put them, we put 5 points into Berserker so we take less damage on low life for us. We put 7 of them in Druid so that we have that endurance and flat armor, so we're even a little bit more tanky. For Shaman, eventually we'll build into this since we always have Frenzy Totem. You can get 200 flat armor here with Blessings later. That'll really boost your damage reduction. And then we put 1 point into Life of the Wilderness so that the wolves or the squirrels will also get our endurance. The last 3 points that we have, we're going to go ahead and spec them into Ancient Might. This will be where I put the next 10 points so that we get that melee physical damage for the minions, so they do just a little bit more damage. And then for the inventory, again, you obviously have the Herald of the Slurry, you're going to have the Claw or the Fang, and then we are wearing 2 of the Apoggies of Frozen Light. The Ribbons of Blood aren't needed, but they do give them more leech and a little bit more melee physical damage. If you have these with LP, you can definitely use them into the late game. Otherwise, you might start running out of fixes for defense. But again, get your resistance up, and then get your critical strike avoidance, which again I'll be getting off of the idols. You can definitely get them on 1x4s and 1x3s, which I think I have here, so that'll get your critical strike avoidance capped for you. And then in the other spots, of course, just get health or resist or anything else you need. You can also go aspect of the lynx if you want, or aspect of the boar for defense, but the critical strike avoidance is really easy to get off the idols right off the bat. And that'll be it for this update and for the guide. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below.